All right, so get ready for a deep dive, you guys, into a winter wonderland, or maybe more like a winter whiteout.
Yeah.
We're talking about this pretty major lake effect snow event that's impacting the Great Lakes region right now.
Right.
And we've got some really fascinating sources to kind of unpack here.
Yeah.
Starting with these urgent alerts from the National Weather Service on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll dig into this detailed article from the Weather Channel.
Okay.
We've also got a local news piece from Syracuse, New York.
Gotcha.
And then a kind of a national perspective from Yahoo.
Mm-hmm.
News.
Mm-hmm.
What's really interesting about this is that we're going beyond just this specific storm.
Yep.
You know, we're going to really understand why lake effect snow is so powerful and unpredictable.
Yeah, it's a fascinating phenomenon, and it's playing out in a dramatic way right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the National Weather Service's posts on X, formerly Twitter, really set the stage, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
They're warning about this widespread snowstorm and the massive range of snowfall totals that they're expecting.
Yeah, it's not just a sprinkle, is it?
No.
I was blown away by this detail from the Weather Channel article.
Yeah.
Some areas got hit with over 4 feet of snow over Thanksgiving weekend.
Wow.
I mean, that's more snow than some places get all winter.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So before we get into like the specifics of this storm, can you break down for us exactly how lake effect snow works?
Yeah, so it's all about the contrast between that super cold air sweeping in and the relatively warmer waters of the Great Lakes.
Okay.
So think about what happens when you have a hot cup of coffee on a freezing day.
Yeah, you get that steam rising up.
Exactly.
Right.
Now imagine that, but on a massive scale.
Okay.
You have frigid air moving over the warmer lake.
Right.
It picks up moisture as it goes.
Okay.
And then as that air rises and cools, all that moisture condenses and falls back down as snow.
Okay.
And what's especially interesting right now is Yahoo. News mentioned that the Great Lakes are experiencing record warmth, which means that even more moisture is available to fuel these snowstorms.
So it's like the lake is this giant snow-making machine.
It really is.
So the Weather Channel said this particular storm system is something called an Alberta Clipper.
Right.
And what exactly does that mean?
So Alberta Clipper is more than just a cool name.
Right.
It tells us about the origin and behavior of this storm. These clippers originate in, you guessed it, Alberta, Canada.
Okay.
They're fast-moving systems that race across the continent.
Gotcha.
Now, when an Alberta clipper slams into the Great Lakes,
Okay.
things get intense fast.
Because it's already picked up all that moisture from the unusually warm lake.
Exactly.
Okay.
The speed of the clipper also means that the air doesn't have much time to warm up and moderate as it moves.
Gotcha.
So it dumps all that snow in these localized, concentrated bursts.
Okay.
That's why we're seeing such extreme snowfall totals in some areas.
Right.
The Weather Channel reported that Erie, Pennsylvania got a record-breaking 22.6 inches of snow.
Wow.
On Black Friday alone.
That's more than some cities get all season.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
And what stood out to me was that this one-day total in Erie actually surpassed their entire seasonal snowfall up to that point.
Wow.
That really shows you just how powerful these lake effect events can be.
It's a dramatic example of how these clippers can produce rapid, intense snowfall.
Right.
And remember, those totals are on top of what many areas already received over Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
Some areas in northwest Pennsylvania could be looking at well over 5 feet of snow by the time this is all over.
It's hard to even picture that much snow.
I know, it's hard to fathom.
But even with those crazy numbers, the Weather Channel article also pointed out something else that really surprised me.
Okay.
Apparently, Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan had its latest first snowfall on record.
Really?
And then immediately got slammed with 42 inches of snow in the last week of November.
Oh, wow.
It's like Mother Nature has a strange sense of humor.
It certainly shows you can't always predict what Mother Nature will throw at us.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that while we can track these storms and make forecasts, there's always an element of uncertainty.
Yeah.
But speaking of forecasts, the Syracuse news piece is highlighting another hazard.
Okay.
Strong winds.
Okay.
They're talking about gusts up to 40 miles per hour, which is going to create blowing snow and dangerous whiteout conditions.
Yeah, that's not something you want to be driving in.
Yeah, absolutely not.
The Syracuse News was specifically warning about the danger of these sudden, intense bursts of snow they call snow squalls.
Right.
Are those like microbursts, but with snow instead of rain?
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
Snow squalls can be incredibly dangerous because they reduce visibility so dramatically and so quickly.
Right.
They can create hazardous driving conditions in an instant,
Yeah.
making travel extremely risky.
And this is all happening right on the heels of a difficult post-Thanksgiving travel weekend, as Yahoo News pointed out.
Exactly. It's a tough time for this to be happening.
So we've got a powerful storm system, unusually warm lake water, and a geographical setup that's basically a recipe for intense snowfall.
It really is.
It's no wonder these areas are getting hit so hard.
It's certainly a combination of factors creating this perfect storm, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it raises some interesting questions about the future of lake effect snow in a changing climate.
Okay.
But I think we should explore that a bit later.
Okay.
For now, let's zoom in on the human side of this story.
Okay.
What struck you as you were reading through these sources?
What really stood out to me was the story about the Buffalo Bills game in Orchard Park, New York.
Yeah.
The stadium was completely buried in snow.
I saw the pictures. It's unbelievable.
And it took this massive community effort.
Yeah.
Fans, crews, everybody pitching in to dig it out in time for the game.
It's incredible.
It's an incredible example of resilience.
It really is.
It's amazing what people can do when they come together like that.
Absolutely. And I think that speaks to a larger point. Yes, we're talking about record snowfall and blizzard-like conditions.
Right.
But we're also talking about real people, real communities dealing with this on the ground.
Right. And it sounds like this is just the beginning.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Multiple sources, including Yahoo News, are saying this lake effect snow event is expected to last through Thursday or Friday.
At least.
That means a huge swath of the country, from Michigan and Ohio all the way to Pennsylvania and New York, is going to be impacted.
It's a massive area.
And the Yahoo News article highlighted all the winter weather alerts that are in effect, including winter storm watches and lake effect snow warnings.
Right.
It's important to understand that those aren't just your average weather advisories.
No, they're not.
They signal a serious situation that requires people to take precautions.
Absolutely.
So what does this all mean for people in the affected areas?
That's the big question.
What should they be doing right now?
That's an excellent question, and one we'll definitely explore further.
Okay.
But first, I'm curious to know, what's standing out to you so far?
Okay.
Is it the sheer amount of snowfall? The science behind lake effect snow? Or perhaps these incredible stories of perseverance in the face of these challenges?
Honestly, for me, it's that image of the Buffalo Bills stadium, buried under all that snow.
Yeah.
It's a powerful visual reminder of how these storms can disrupt life, but also how people find a way to, to push through.
Yeah.
But those warnings you mentioned, the winter storm watches and lake effect snow warnings,
Right.
I have to admit, I'm not always sure what the difference is.
Sure.
Could you break those down for us?
Of course. So it's easy to get those terms mixed up.
Okay.
A winter storm watch means conditions are favorable for a significant winter storm to develop.
Okay.
It's like a heads up,
Yeah.
telling you to be prepared because things could get messy.
Okay.
A lake effect snow warning, on the other hand,
Right.
means those intense snow squalls are happening or imminent. That's when you need to take action, limit travel if possible, and be ready for rapidly changing conditions.
Gotcha.
So watches are about potential.
Oh,
Warnings are about imminent danger.
okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So with this storm expected to last for several more days, what are some things that people can do to stay safe and, minimize the disruptions?
Yeah, so it all starts with preparation.
Okay.
Have an emergency plan in place.
Mm-hmm.
Know what to do if the power goes out.
Right.
Have a supply of food, water, and any necessary medications on hand.
Okay.
Make sure you have a way to stay warm if your heating system fails.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it like a winter weather survival kit.
Okay. That's great advice.
Yeah.
What about travel?
Sure.
Any tips for those who absolutely have to be on the roads during this?
Yeah, if you must travel, make sure your car is winterized. That means checking your battery antifreeze tire pressure, making sure you have good windshield wipers, and plenty of washer fluid.
Right.
It's also crucial to have a full tank of gas and an emergency kit in your trunk in case you get stranded.
Right.
Things like blankets, extra clothing, a flashlight, a first aid kit.
Mm-hmm.
These can all be lifesavers.
Yeah, that's great advice. And it's not just about individual preparedness, is it?
No, it's not.
The Yahoo News article talked about these broader impacts.
Here.
Travel disruptions, power outages, school closures. I mean, these storms can really throw a wrench into the workings of a community.
You're absolutely right. That's why it's so important for communities to have robust infrastructure in place to handle these events.
Okay.
Think about things like snow removal equipment,
Right.
ensuring power lines can withstand strong winds, and having emergency response teams ready to go.
So investing in the, physical infrastructure to handle Heavy snow and strong winds is essential.
It is.
But what about keeping people informed? What role does communication play in all of this?
Communication is key during these events.
Okay.
It's all about keeping residents informed about the storm's progress,
Right.
road conditions, potential hazards, and any emergency instructions. Reliable internet access,
Okay.
community-based communication networks, and early warning systems all play a crucial role.
So it's a multi-layered approach,
It is.
having multiple ways to get information out to people even if one system goes down.
Exactly. Redundancy is key.
And of course, it's not just about government agencies and emergency services, right?
Right.
Individuals play a vital role too.
Absolutely. We've talked about individual preparedness, but there's also the aspect of community support.
Okay.
Check on your neighbors, especially those who might be elderly or have health conditions.
All right.
Offer assistance with snow removal, grocery shopping, or anything else they might need.
Those small acts of kindness can make a huge difference,
They really can.
especially for vulnerable individuals.
Absolutely.
It's inspiring to see how these storms can bring out the best in people.
It is, isn't it?
That sense of community, that willingness to help each other. It's really heartwarming.
It's a silver lining in these often challenging situations.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even in the face of adversity, communities can come together and support each other.
Right now, we've talked a lot about the immediate impacts of this storm and how communities are coping.
Right.
But what about the long-term implications?
Sure.
Especially considering what we discussed earlier about climate change potentially intensifying lake effect snow events.
That's a really important point.
Yeah. It's a little mind-boggling to think that warmer temperatures could actually lead to more snow.
It is a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But here's the key.
Okay.
Warmer lake temperatures mean more evaporation.
Okay.
And more evaporation means more moisture in the air, which is the fuel for those massive snowstorms.
Oh, yeah.
It's like adding more wood to a fire.
Okay.
In this case, the wood is the moisture evaporating from the unusually warm Great Lakes.
So it's not just about how cold the air gets,
Right.
but how much moisture is available in the air. And with climate change potentially causing warmer lake temperatures, we could be looking at a future with even more intense and frequent lake effect snow events.
That's a very real possibility.
Wow.
And it's something that communities in these regions will need to consider as they plan for the future.
Right.
Building resilience isn't just about reacting to the current storm. It's about anticipating and preparing for what might come next.
So what does that look like in practice?
Yeah.
What can communities do to prepare for a future with potentially more extreme lake effect snow events?
It starts with recognizing that climate change is a factor.
Okay.
We can't just assume that future winters will be like past winters.
Right.
We need to be prepared for a wider range of possibilities, including more extreme snow events.
Okay.
And that means taking a comprehensive approach
Right.
from strengthening infrastructure to improving communication systems
Right.
to promoting individual and community preparedness.
It sounds like a massive undertaking.
It is a big challenge.
But it's clearly essential, especially given what's at stake.
It is.
I mean, these storms can disrupt lives, damage property,
Absolutely.
and have a significant economic impact.
You're absolutely right. And the economic implications are something we need to consider carefully.
Okay.
These storms can force businesses to close,
Right.
disrupt transportation networks, and impact tourism.
Right.
Communities need to be proactive in finding ways to mitigate these impacts.
So what are some concrete strategies that communities can implement to protect their economies from these disruptions?
Well, one approach is to diversify their economies.
Oh.
So they're not overly reliant on industries that are highly vulnerable to winter weather disruptions.
That makes sense.
Supporting local businesses is also crucial,
Okay.
as they're often the backbone of the community and more likely to weather the storm, so to speak.
Right. And what about the tourism industry?
Yeah.
It seems like that could be particularly hard hit by these storms.
It certainly can be, but there are also opportunities. Communities can promote winter tourism activities.
Right, like skiing and...
Exactly, things like skiing, snowboarding, snowmobiling. Create indoor attractions that are less weather dependent,
Okay.
and invest in tourism infrastructure that can withstand these events.
Right.
It's about being creative and finding ways to adapt.
So it's about turning a challenge into an opportunity.
It is.
Embracing the unique aspects of these regions and finding ways to thrive even in the face of adversity.
Exactly. It's about resilience, adaptability, and a willingness to think outside the box.
Okay.
But before we delve further into those ideas,
Okay.
I'd like to shift gears slightly and go back to something we touched on earlier.
Right.
The role of wind patterns in lake effect snow events.
Right.
We talked about how warmer lake temperatures provide more moisture, but the wind is also a crucial piece of the puzzle.
Okay, so how do wind patterns influence these snowstorms?
So the wind direction and speed determine where those snow bands form
Okay.
and how intense they become. Think of it like a conveyor belt carrying that moisture-laden air from the lake over land.
Right.
The stronger and more persistent the wind, the more snow it can dump in a concentrated area.
So if wind patterns change,
Yeah,
it could potentially shift the areas most affected by lake effect snow.
that's right.
That's fascinating.
And it's something scientists are studying closely because as climate change alters global weather patterns,
Right.
we could see shifts in wind patterns that lead to lake effect snow in new areas
Wow.
or intensify snowfall in existing ones.
Okay.
It adds another layer of complexity to an already complex phenomenon.
Wow, it's like a domino effect.
It is.
Warmer temperatures lead to more evaporation,
Right.
which fuels more intense snowstorms,
Exactly.
and then shifting wind patterns potentially change where that snow falls.
Right.
It really highlights the interconnectedness of our climate system.
It does, and it underscores the importance of understanding these complex interactions as we prepare for a future that may look quite different from the past.
So we've got this immediate storm to contend with,
Yeah.
but we also need to be thinking about the long-term implications for the region.
Absolutely.
There's a lot to consider,
It is.
but it's also an opportunity to learn, to adapt, and to build more resilient communities.
I completely agree. It's an opportunity to embrace the challenges and
Right.
find innovative solutions that benefit both people and the environment.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on to explore those solutions in more detail,
Yeah.
I'm curious, what's resonating most with you so far? What's sparking your curiosity?
Honestly, what's really sticking with me is that idea of, communities adapting and even finding ways to thrive in the face of these challenges.
Yeah.
It's easy to focus on the, negative aspects of these storms. But there's also this incredible spirit of resilience and innovation that emerges.
That's a great point. You
Yeah.
know, we've been talking about lake effect snow as this powerful disruptive force.
Right.
But what's fascinating is how it's also shaped the culture and identity of these regions.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you live in a place where lake effect snow is a regular occurrence,
Right.
it becomes part of who you are, part of your story.
So it's not just about enduring the snow.
Right.
It's about embracing it.
Exactly. We see this in the rise of winter tourism.
Okay.
Ski resorts, snowmobile trails, ice fishing. These become not just recreational activities, but major economic drivers for communities.
Right.
They're taking what could be seen as a liability and turning it into an asset.
And it's not just about those big flashy attractions either.
Yeah.
There's also this whole culture built around winter.
Absolutely.
From, local festivals and ice sculptures to, cozy evenings by the fireplace.
Right.
It becomes a shared experience that brings people together.
Absolutely. Think about those winter festivals, the ice sculptures, the snowshoeing excursions.
Yeah.
These become woven into the fabric of life in these regions.
Right.
And that sense of community, that shared experience of dealing with the challenges and celebrating the beauty of winter. It's a powerful thing.
It sounds like lake effect snow, for all its disruptions, also creates this unique sense of place, a shared identity that binds communities together.
Precisely. And that shared identity can be a source of strength, especially when it comes to facing the challenges of these storms.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about physical infrastructure and emergency preparedness.
Right.
It's also about the social fabric, that network of support and resilience that exists within communities.
So it's about embracing the snow, adapting to its rhythms, and finding ways to not just survive, but to actually thrive in a winter wonderland.
I love that.
What a powerful message.
It really is. And I think it's a message that resonates far beyond the shores of the Great Lakes.
Okay.
Because ultimately, it's about our relationship with nature.
Right.
It's about recognizing that nature is a powerful force, but it's also a source of beauty, wonder, and opportunity.
That's a beautiful way to put it. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of lake effect snow, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think it's this lake effect snow, like all weather phenomena deserves our respect and understanding.
Okay.
It's a force of nature that can be disruptive,
Hmm.
but it's also a source of beauty, a shaper of culture, and a reminder of our own resilience.
Beautifully said. And on that inspiring note, we'll wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. Thank you to our expert for sharing your knowledge and insights,
It's been my pleasure.
and to our listeners for joining us on this journey. Stay curious, stay warm, and until next time, happy deep diving.